All right, so you followed the link and you got here. That's good news. It's a good start. All right, so I'm going to share some information with you because unfortunately during our collab time on Tuesday, I'm not going to be able to be with you. I am going to be presenting district-wide, and actually you'll have a chance to see that presentation in the afternoon. But since I can't be there, I decided I was going to put together a little video message for you and kind of go through the plan and structure for that time. But I first did want to tell all of you that I missed you very much, and I hope you had a great summer. I certainly had a great summer. You know, one of the gifts of our positions in education is that we get a chance for things to slow down a little bit in summer. It's crazy during the course of the year, but summer things slow down a little bit for all of us, and we get a chance to reconnect with families and kind of get our energy back again. And so I'm ready to go. I'm very excited, and I hope you're all very excited as well. You know, they also say that it's during your third and fourth year in a position that you kind of start hitting your stride. And you know, I feel good, and I feel very ready to go. And I also feel really good about, you know, 3 years of us being together as a team and just as a larger group, us being able to hit our stride this year. And so I have big expectations for myself as well as for our teams. And so I'm just really excited. I think it's going to be a good time. I'd also like to take a minute to welcome our newest staff member, whose name is Jennifer Giggle, and she is going to be our new school social worker. Jen comes to our district with just an incredible skill set, an incredible range of experiences that she's had. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, anytime that I call references, I hear good things about the person, but it was very clear from the reference calls that I made that her previous district is going to truly miss having her around, and so their loss is truly our benefit. I would ask that, you know, make sure that you reach out to Jen and that you introduce yourself and help her feel comfortable and give her any support that she needs until she's up and running. Finally, similar to last year, I'd like to hold individual meetings with everyone kind of in the beginning of the year. And I'm thinking maybe starting the second or third week in September and then getting them all wrapped up by the end of October. What I'd like to do differently this year than I did last year, however, though, is I'd like for our meetings to be a little bit more focused. And I'd like to focus on two things. One is I want to hear about what you love to do in your role. So if you're for school psych, you know, what drew you into school psych? What do you love doing? School counselor, school social worker, any of those. I want you to think about what you love doing, because I think it's really important for us to try to find ways to make sure that that is part of your role. And so I want to work with you to make sure that everybody has something that they, you know, aspects of what they just love to do as part of their role. Secondly, I'd like everybody to give some thought as to an area where they feel, you know, I could use some professional growth and I could improve in an area. I'd like you to select an area, and then I'd like to work with you this year to kind of help develop and build your skills in that area. So those would be the two areas of focus, and of course any other things that you want to talk about would certainly be fine. Any suggestions that you have for me and how I can be a better leader to you or to the group would most certainly be welcomed. So let's begin and talk a little bit about our collab time on Tuesday, and I'm just going to change my view here. All right. So let's get to the top. So just a reminder, our pupil service collaboration is going to be in room 228 on Tuesday, August 28th from 9 o'clock till 12:05. And at 12:05, you'll have lunch for about an hour, and then we'll have your breakout session that you'll be attending will be in at the high school in room 243 from about 1 to 2:30. And then finally, you'll get a chance that afternoon to go back to your building and get your office set up and make whatever connections you need to make with people. So during that collab time, and again, I'm sorry that I can't be there with you, but I did put some thoughts together. First thing I'd like you to do and spend about an hour on are refocusing and relooking at our Big Rocks documents. So I'd like you to do this both as leveled teams, so elementary, middle, and high school, but also in your group, so as psych, social workers, and counselors. Take a look at those documents that we created last year. And I have some specific tasks within here, and I'm going to go through them really quickly, but you'll get a copy of this document to go through in more detail. One of the things I want you to do is to look through all the things that you did and add anything that was a really significant part of your role last year if it wasn't included, and kind of rank order them 1 to 5, 1 being the highest, 5 being the lowest, in terms of just what had the greatest impact on kids, or what was the most important task in terms of legal IEP compliance being one that has a pretty big legal impact. For new tasks that you bring into the list, I want you to make sure that you write kind of a similar description that we have right now, along with data collection, so that we can add it to our existing list. I'd also like you to take a look at any tasks that we currently have listed and think about, are there pieces of that task that could be or should be really handled by someone else? So WKCE is one example that came to mind right away as one of those things that maybe we could look at getting some assistance support for, tasks that don't require a professional pupil services staff member. So I want you to get a couple of, put down on paper a couple of things about them. So about how much time and when, so during what months of the year did this task occur, any thoughts that you have relative to who could perform the task, as well as the training that would be necessary for that person to do the task well. And then finally, share your rationale as to why this task could be more appropriately done by someone else. Next, I'd like you to look at any tasks that that ended up being a lot more time than we had anticipated. Human growth and development would be one example. GT and NT plans were another really good example. I want you to think about roughly how much time and when and where those tasks occurred, and any ideas that you have relative to how we could be more efficient in completing that task, whether it's necessary for us to be doing that task again. So just kind of go through that same process. For all the identified big rock ideas, I'd like you to review the description and the process for completing the task and update as necessary. And add any detail as necessary. I'd also like you to identify a person, and do that by name please, who's going to be responsible for kind of collecting the data. Kind of coordinating the data collection rather. So the individual who's identified may or may not be the one who's collecting all the data, but they're the one who really needs to understand the, what you're collecting, why you're collecting it, how it's being collected, and this is going to be the person too who's going to be reporting that data out, not only to us as a larger group, but also possibly to that our leadership team or even our school board. So. And then finally, if any differences exist in terms of who within our pupil services team is or should be responsible for any of the identified tasks, and I know last year there was some question about counseling responsibilities versus CST responsibilities, I want you to try to work those out and clarify, if there's circumstances under which it would be one group versus another, try to clarify that. How you came to those agreements and what those agreements are, and if we're struggling to get to an agreement, then make note of that as well, and I'll work with the teams to make sure that we get there. So I've assigned people for all of these tasks that I'd like to take some responsibility. So Jamie for the elementary level one, pupil services plan, Jessica at the middle school level, and Christine at the high school. Could you take responsibility and make sure that these are completed and updated and that the document is emailed to me by September 3rd? Next, Plan, Do, Study, Act. This is something that we're doing very much so at the district level. We started doing it at the middle school level last year, and we're going to continue doing that this year. And so this is how I'd like to attack this particular process. Our middle school teams last year had the opportunity to actually start this process, and so I'd like both middle school teams to present your information, your PDSA, to the whole group so that everybody can have the benefit of the work that can see the work that you've done so far and kind of get a better understanding of how to approach the PDSA. I also then would like you to then talk within your team as to, so what are you going to do this year to get to that study and act part. For the most part, we got to the planning. We needed to do some of the doing this year of what we were going to do, and then the study and act. Remember, include as much specificity as you can on that form so that it's very clear what's going to be done, when things are going to be done. And by the end of the year, both middle school teams should have for sure gone through an entire PDSA cycle, and maybe even gone beyond that. For the elementary and high school teams who have not started one yet, I'd like you to look at the Big Rocks document and choose an area that impacts all of your pupil services teams, so all of the elementary and then all of the high school, with the exception maybe of Pam McKeever, because her role is so specific to special ed, so that the one that's selected at the high school may not include Pam. And start this PDSA process. So look at, what is something that we could plan to take on and and what are the actions that we're going to do. For right now, I just want you to look at the planning and the doing part, and then at a later time this year, we're going to go back around and we're going to look at the study and the act. Just as a reminder, please don't include Deanna or Jen Giggle in this in your PDSAs for elementary and high school teams, because they're already involved with the middle school teams. Again, just with the as well as with the high school, please include as much specificity as possible relative to what tasks need to be completed, who's going to be responsible for completing them. And by mid-year, we're going to be looking at completing. So by mid-year, I'm hoping that the planning and the doing pieces are done, and that we're looking at the study and the act. And then if you could find a common time that works for all of you to schedule time with me, that'd be great. So we can review that PDSA together. Persons responsible: Deanna at Lake Danoon, Pam at Bay Lane, Emily at the elementary level, and Susan Schuett at the high school level. Please take the responsibility to put together the document or add to your existing document and then email it to me by September 3rd. Again, the plan and do portions are the only portions that need to be completed by the high school the high school and elementary at this time. All right, next one. We have a request from Kelly, and I think it's a great opportunity to showcase some of what we're doing. She would like all the department leaders to submit an article describing what we're doing in our department to advance the district's mission. So I'd like at each level for you to have some discussion about this and talk about some of the things that we are doing that really impact every student learning, growing, and succeeding. And for the people responsible below, so JLo, Mary, and Jean, to take the responsibility to kind of tie those thoughts together and email them to me, again, no later than September 3rd. Again, this should be a summary, so just a couple of sentences each. Kelly is not looking for a huge document on my part. She's just looking for a summary of what we've done. So if you could pick the areas and give me a little write-up on them, a couple of sentences, that'd be fabulous. Finally, and I'm on a time thing here because I can only put 15 minutes on YouTube, so I'm trying to go quickly. Web pages and website. Last week, a number of pupil services staff attended a great presentation by Steve Check about the new website, and he showed us not only a general overview, but also helped us understand how we're going to be able to add content. And I think we have a variety of options, and I'm really pretty flexible about how we proceed. But I think, at least in my mind, here are some of the ways that we can conceptualize how we'd put the pages together. We could either have web pages that are arranged by level, so maybe elementary, middle, and high school. We could only do that if you wanted. Or we could arrange our web pages by job role, so that maybe the counselors would have a page, social workers would have a page, psych would have a page. Or we could have our pages by one of those two, so either by level or by job role, and then also have personal pages. So each person could have a personal page. If there are any other ideas, I'm completely open to that as well. Those are the ones that came to my mind most quickly. It is my intent to have a pupil services kind of a main page, a leadership page, where I'd provide some more general information related to our staff and the services that we provide. But as a full group, I'd like you to come to some consensus with regard to the recommendation for how we organize our web pages. So, we organize them as job description, or do we organize them as levels, as well as whether we include individual pages. And again, I don't have strong feelings about this either way, but I do feel as though we either do have personal pages or we don't have personal pages. So I don't think it makes sense for some of us to and some of us not to. And then the other thing as a group I'd need you to do then is think about the layout for those pages, because I think it would look best and make the most sense if we really standardize the layout of the pages. So think about what the layout might look like, what some of the headers might be on those pages, and then if Bob and Joe, I'd like the two of you to kind of take leadership for facilitating the conversation and then sending me Word documents that would provide the recommended layout of how the web pages would look. Again, no later than September 3rd. So I know this is really kind of a quick breeze through. I'm going to be sending some additional documents to you. Oh, there's two people that I'm not going to include Jennifer Giggle in any of the things I'm asking, the responsibilities. But Pam McKeever and who else? Jane, I believe. Jane and Pam, I would ask that the two of you kind of help keep the group on schedule. So we need to get